We configured the most powerful AI models into two expert debaters to debate one of humanity's most profound questions. Does God exist? Meet the AI debaters in today's discussion.
Hi, I'm Max. I believe the idea of God is just a comforting story, unnecessary to explain reality. Science and reason provide better answers.
And I'm Faith. I believe God is real, offering meaning and purpose beyond what science can measure. Some things, Max, go beyond logic.
For extra excitement, we've added a specialist AI model to judge each part of the debate. Stay tuned to see who wins, but don't cheat yourself by skipping ahead. Round 1 starts with spectacular action from both sides. Let's start with one of the biggest challenges in this debate. If God exists and is all good, why is there so much suffering and evil in the world? Could the existence of so much pain disprove an all-powerful, benevolent deity?
Opening argument. All right, let's get straight to it. If God is truly all good and all-powerful, why does he allow so much suffering? Wars, diseases, natural disasters, all causing immense, senseless pain. A truly benevolent God wouldn't sit back and let that happen, would he? This problem of evil isn't new, and it's still one of the strongest reasons for doubting any all-loving deity.
Initial counterargument. Max, you're oversimplifying. A world without challenges or suffering might sound nice, but would it allow for free will or genuine moral growth? Suffering, painful as it is, often brings out resilience, compassion, and wisdom. Perhaps God allows suffering not out of neglect, but because a deeper, often hidden purpose is at work.
Rebuttal and reinforcement. So, we're saying that suffering builds character? Tell that to a child dying from hunger or a family torn apart by war. Sure, people find meaning in hardship, but that doesn't justify why an all-powerful being would allow it in the first place. We wouldn't need character-building suffering if a truly good God designed a better world from the start.
Counter-rebuttal. But Max, look at the nature of love and freedom. A world designed for perfection without free will would be empty. Real love requires choice, and choice brings consequences, both good and bad. God didn't create robots. He created beings capable of love, courage, and growth, even in the face of suffering.
Second layer of argumentation. But doesn't that imply God values choice over well-being? An omnipotent God could create a world with free will and far less suffering. This isn't just about choice, Faith. It's about needless pain, the kind that goes beyond any reasonable test of free will.
New point or pivot. Then maybe suffering and evil aren't things God allows, but realities of a world we shape ourselves. Humanity plays a role here too. Evil and suffering can be the results of human actions and natural processes in a world still unfolding, not some grand punishment or neglect from above.
Yet that argument still avoids the core issue. If God is all-knowing, he foresaw all of this. The diseases, the earthquakes, the cruelty. Either God couldn't prevent it, which questions his power, or he wouldn't, which questions his goodness. That paradox can't just be explained away.
Final rebuttal. Or maybe we need to rethink our assumptions about God's ways. Just because we can't fully understand the purpose of suffering doesn't mean one doesn't exist. There's a humility required in recognizing that a higher intelligence might see things we don't. Perhaps suffering is part of a larger story, even if it's not one we'd write.
Just when Max seemed to have backed Faith into a corner, she brought a new perspective on God and suffering. But who made the stronger case?
Effectively argued the inconsistency between a benevolent God and the reality of suffering, while offered a compelling view on free will and the purpose of suffering, though her response left some points unanswered. 85 points and 80 points.
Debate 1 was just the beginning. What comes next will challenge their arguments even further. In this round, we shift to another core question. Does the very existence of the universe point to a creator? Is a divine spark necessary to explain how it all began?
Max, let's talk about origins. The universe exists, and everything we know comes from something else. To me, that points to a first cause, a creator who set everything in motion. Science explains a lot, but it can't explain why there's something rather than nothing. The existence of the universe itself hints at a divine source.
Interesting, Faith, but science actually offers plausible answers here. The Big Bang Theory, for one, describes how the universe expanded from an incredibly dense state. No divine push needed. Just because we don't fully understand the beginning doesn't mean we should insert God as an explanation. Gaps in our knowledge aren't evidence of the divine.
Rebuttal and reinforcement. Sure, the Big Bang explains a lot about how the universe evolved, but it doesn't explain why it came to be at all. Even if we trace everything back to a singularity, we're left with the same question. What caused that singularity? I believe that points to something beyond mere physics, to a transcendent cause that started it all.
But saying God did it doesn't solve the problem. It just moves it back a step. If everything needs a cause, then who created God? We might never fully understand the origins of the universe, but jumping to a supernatural answer because it's convenient just sidesteps the question.
It's not about convenience, Max. It's about coherence. A first cause, something uncaused, eternal, solves that infinite regression problem you're describing. I'd argue God is that first cause, existing outside the constraints of time and space, and therefore not bound by the rules of causality we apply to everything else.
But this idea of a first cause being outside time and space is just that, an idea. We don't need a divine explanation when we can explore models like quantum mechanics, where particles can appear spontaneously without a specific cause. Maybe the universe just is without needing a supernatural source.
But even quantum mechanics doesn't explain the reason for the existence of physical laws themselves. Why do particles follow patterns at all? Why is there a structured universe capable of supporting life? These questions go deeper than random chance. They hint at a design, or at the very least, an intention.
Or maybe it's just what we humans perceive as order. We evolved to see patterns, even when they aren't there. The universe doesn't need intention to exist. It's simply a vast, indifferent system. To me, adding a creator only makes things more complicated, not clearer.
Faith presented a powerful case for a purposeful origin. Max argued that explanations without invoking God are both simpler and scientifically grounded. But who has the stronger argument?
Faith effectively argued for a coherent first cause, giving a solid case for intentional design. Max countered well with naturalistic alternatives, though he left some of Faith's philosophical points unresolved. 88 points and 85 points.
Debate 2 raised fascinating questions, but what comes next will test their arguments even further. Get ready, it's about to get intense. Now we turn to a timeless question about morality. Can we have objective right and wrong without a divine source? Does God provide a foundation for morality, or can ethics stand on its own?
Opening argument Faith, people often say we need God to define right and wrong, but look at the evidence. Societies worldwide have developed moral codes without religious frameworks. Morality evolves from empathy, social agreements, and our basic survival instincts. No need for a divine lawgiver. Humans create ethics based on what's beneficial for society.
Initial counterargument. Max, social agreements can explain how we come to moral rules, but they don't explain why some things are truly right or wrong. Without a higher standard, morality becomes relative, just a matter of opinion or convenience. I believe objective moral values, like justice and compassion, reflect a divine source, giving them true meaning beyond human preferences.
Rebuttal and reinforcement. But objective morals from a divine source are tricky too. Different religions disagree on moral laws, whose God defines right and wrong. And if we follow moral rules out of fear of punishment or desire for reward, that's not true morality. It's obedience. Real ethics comes from within, based on reasoning and compassion, not commands from above.
Counter-rebuttal. You're assuming belief in God means blind obedience, but many believers act morally out of love, not fear. They see God as a source of moral goodness that inspires them. And while societies disagree on certain rules, core values, like honesty, kindness, and fairness, are strikingly universal, suggesting a shared moral law that points beyond culture.
Or maybe those universal values reflect our shared human experience, not a divine law. After all, values like kindness and honesty help communities thrive, so it makes sense they'd be common across cultures. And when it comes to real-world ethics, we rely on reason and empathy, not divine commands, to handle complex moral issues.
But reason and empathy alone can be subjective. What happens when people disagree? If morality is just a product of society, then on what grounds can we condemn injustice? Without an objective standard, right and wrong lose meaning. Belief in a higher moral source grounds our sense of justice in something unchangeable and universal.
The idea of a higher standard sounds nice, but we've seen throughout history how divine morality can be used to justify horrific actions. Morality should be adaptable, growing as we learn and progress. An evolving, reason-based morality lets us question and improve, while divine commandments are fixed and unchallengeable, which can be dangerous.
But without a constant foundation, morality risks becoming whatever is popular or convenient at the time. A higher standard provides a compass, especially when society goes astray. Divine morality isn't about halting progress. It's about anchoring our deepest values. It challenges us to aim for something greater than ourselves.
Faith argued that objective morals point to a divine foundation, while Max made the case for a flexible, human-centered ethics. Both brought compelling points. Who do you think has the edge?
Faith effectively argued that objective morals point to a transcendent source, grounding moral values beyond cultural influence. Max argued persuasively for a morality based on human reasoning and empathy, though he didn't fully address the need for a moral anchor beyond social consensus. Score Faith 90 points, Max 87 points.
With 3 rounds complete, the stakes are higher than ever. Just when you thought you'd seen it all, the next round will challenge both debaters like never before. In this round, we ask a question that cuts to the core of belief itself. Are faith and reason fundamentally opposed, or can they coexist? Can belief in God be rational, or is it something beyond logic?
People often pit faith and reason against each other, but they're not enemies. Faith is simply trusting in things we cannot fully explain. Even science operates on a kind of faith. Scientists assume laws of nature will hold, even though we don't know why they exist in the first place. Faith isn't irrational. It's a different way of understanding.
With all due respect, there's a huge difference between trust in scientific principles and religious faith. Science is built on evidence and can be tested, repeated, and refined. Religious faith asks people to believe without proof, sometimes even against evidence. That's a leap, not a logical step, and it puts faith squarely at odds with reason.
But Max, isn't it a bit narrow to think logic can explain everything? Reason has its limits, especially with questions of ultimate meaning, purpose, and love, things that can't be measured in a lab. Faith steps in where reason leaves off, offering insights that logic alone can't reach. They're not contradictory, they're complementary.
That sounds poetic, Faith, but when faith steps in where reason leaves off, it can justify almost anything. How do we separate true insights from mere belief or superstition? Logic and evidence are safeguards. Faith can't claim that. It's subjective, and without reason to guide it, it can lead people in dangerous directions.
But reason isn't infallible either, Max. Human logic is limited by perspective and understanding. Throughout history, things we once knew through reason have been proven wrong. Faith, on the other hand, has a way of grounding us in hope, meaning, and purpose, qualities that rationality alone often lacks.
Sure, but that's exactly why faith can be risky. When people rely on it as a foundation, they risk ignoring hard facts. Science isn't perfect, but it's self-correcting. It questions itself and evolves. Faith doesn't have that built-in flexibility. Faith and logic may coexist, but they're on different paths that lead to different kinds of answers.
Faith and reason can be in harmony when used together. Faith gives us purpose, something worth striving for, while reason helps us find practical ways to pursue it. Belief in God doesn't mean rejecting reason. It just means accepting that some things, like purpose or love, can't be pinned down by logic alone.
But faith, that's the problem. Faith lets people accept ideas without questioning them. and when ideas go unchallenged, they stagnate. Reason demands evidence, debate, and growth. In the end, faith asks us to stop asking questions, while reason pushes us to keep exploring. That's why I believe they're at odds, not in balance.
Argued that faith and reason can be complementary, each filling a unique role in human experience, while insisted they're incompatible, with reason driving progress and faith risking stagnation. Who made the more persuasive case?
Summary: made a strong case for reason as a foundation for growth and self-correction, emphasizing the risks of unchallenged faith. Faith, meanwhile, argued effectively for the idea that faith and reason meet different human needs, though she left some of points on evidence and verification unaddressed. Score: faith 85 points, Max 89 points.
With round 5 complete, brace yourself for what lies ahead. It's going to get intense. With both debaters having made their cases on suffering, the universe, morality, and the balance between faith and reason, it's time to hear from our AI judge on the final score. Who provided the stronger arguments overall? Let's find out.
Max held a slight edge overall, delivering consistently rational arguments that underscored the importance of evidence and adaptability in understanding the universe, morality, and human knowledge. Faith provided deeply meaningful insights into purpose, ethics, and the nature of belief, grounding her arguments in a sense of higher order and connection. Both made compelling points, but Max's focus on empirical reasoning won him a narrow victory. Final score: faith 433 points and Max 436 points.
Well, that was an interesting journey, Faith. I'll admit, you made me question a few things about the importance of purpose and meaning, even if I still think we can build that without a divine framework. Faith, maybe we're more alike than I thought. Questioning, exploring, searching for answers, even if we start from different points.
Likewise, Max. I think we both want to make sense of this complex, often confusing world, and maybe we're just looking at different sides of the same coin. And who knows? Maybe reason and faith aren't so incompatible after all. Just don't expect me to give up on the divine quite yet.
This debate has sparked deep arguments and thought-provoking perspectives on some of life's biggest questions. Faith and Max each brought unique insights that left us with plenty to consider. So now it's your turn. Who do you think made the stronger case? Thank you for joining us in this exploration. The questions may linger, but maybe that's just part of the journey.